Long ago, in the red earth lands of Umuagu, there lived a man called Ogbu. He was not the richest trader, nor was he the strongest hunter in his village. He did not ride the finest horses or wear the shiniest wrappers. But Ogbu had something else, something more valuable than strength or status. He had eyes that could see what others ignored. While many men only saw today, Ogbu thought of tomorrow. In those days, Umuagu had its own special currency, a shiny coin known as Naira. The elders used to say that Naira was not just money, it was a spirit child born from the marketplace. It behaved like a restless dancer. Sometimes it rose high and proud, other times it stumbled and fell flat. People would wake up one morning to find that what they could buy yesterday with 5 coins now required 10, and they would cry out, "Ah, this Naira is wicked!" But Ogbu was wiser than most. He understood that Naira was not wicked. It only danced in response to how the people treated it. He observed how the villagers lived. They loved foreign cloth more than the one their local weavers made. They filled their plates with rice from faraway lands while yam barns and cassava fields in their own soil rotted. They borrowed recklessly from moneylenders and spent lavishly on things that brought no return, yet they rarely saved in the cooperative house of the town. Each time they did this, Naira grew weary. It began to sway like a drunkard at a festival, sometimes strong, sometimes weak, always confusing the people. But Ogbu did not join the chorus of complaints. Instead, he asked himself a quiet question. If Naira is restless, how do I learn to dance with it without falling? That was the beginning of his journey to wealth. Ogbu was a palm wine tapper. Day after day, he climbed tall raffia palms with his rope belt and calabash, cutting into the trees and collecting the sweet liquid that dripped slowly. Many men did the same job, but Ogbu added wisdom to his work. He stopped depending on imported glass bottles to sell his wine. Instead, he used calabashes carved by the craftsmen of Umuagu. The calabashes were cheaper, they supported the local economy, and soon people began to prefer Ogbu's wine because the containers looked more natural and cultural. Other tappers copied him, and without knowing it, Ogbu had set off a small wave of innovation. But he did not stop there. He looked around and realized that the chiefs and elders always needed palm wine for rituals and ceremonies. Ordinary wine would not do. So Ogbu began to set aside a portion of his harvest, ferment it carefully, and present it in decorated gourds as chief's wine. Because it carried dignity and respect, he could charge higher for it, and the chiefs gladly paid. Later, Ogbu even learned how to distill a stronger drink from the same palm wine, and travelers who passed through Umuagu would pay handsomely for it. In this way, Ogbu made his product more valuable by understanding the needs of different people. With the profits he earned, Ogbu began to think beyond palm wine. He bought a few goats. At first it seemed small, but as moons passed, the goats multiplied. Soon he had a herd. While other villagers tied their fortunes only to one thing, Ogbu built many streams. When palm wine sales were slow, goats gave him meat and milk to sell. When goats were scarce in the market, palm wine still flowed from his trees. In time, Ogbu became known not just as a tapper, but as a man of enterprise. Then one Harmattan season, something happened. The market crier announced that palm wine, which had sold for 10 Naira in the last moon, was now 20. The whole village wailed. Housewives complained that prices had doubled. Farmers grumbled that fertilizer cost more than ever. The people shouted, "This Naira has betrayed us." But in Ogbu's compound there was laughter and feasting. Why? Because Ogbu had not stored his wealth in clay pots of Naira. He had converted his earnings into things that held value even when Naira danced madly: his goats, his farmlands, his carved calabashes, and his small but steady businesses. While others watched their Naira shrink like a snail in fire, Ogbu's wealth continued to grow like yam vines in the rainy season. The elders of the land grew curious. They came to Ogbu one evening and asked, "How have you done this? How have you kept your family safe when inflation has swept away the fortunes of many?" Ogbu answered with a parable. He said, "Inflation is like harmattan fire. It burns quickly and consumes everything in its path. If you keep your riches only in dry grass, the fire will finish you. But if you plant trees, the fire may rage, but you will still have something standing." Naira is not our enemy. It is how we treat Naira that determines if we rise or fall. From that day, Ogbu became a teacher of sorts. Young men came to him to learn, and he shared his wisdom freely. He told them, "Do not depend only on what is foreign. If you spend all your Naira chasing imported things, you weaken it. Learn to produce, learn to create, and learn to value what your own land gives you." He told them also, "Do not store all your wealth in money. Money is like water in the sun, it evaporates. Store in land, in skills, in businesses, in things that multiply." And again he said, "Do not depend on one source of income. If all your life rests on a single palm tree, then the day the tree falls, your life collapses. Diversify, my sons and daughters, diversify." Years passed and Ogbu grew old, but his wealth did not fade. One day the king summoned him to the palace. The kingdom had fallen into hardship. Naira was weaker than ever and many families were struggling. The king said, "Ogbu, we have seen how your household prospers even in these hard times. Teach us how to build wealth for the whole kingdom." And Ogbu smiled, his beard white like cotton, his voice deep and steady. "O king," he said, "wealth is not about counting coins alone. Wealth is about using wisdom to multiply what you already have. Wealth is about teaching people to work with their hands, about producing more than you consume, about respecting the land that feeds us. If we learn to do this, the Naira will find rest. It will stop stumbling and begin to dance with dignity." The king listened, and from that day, the kingdom began to change. Farmers tilled more land, craftsmen sold their wares proudly, traders not only bought but also exported. Slowly, the Naira stopped stumbling as wildly. It still danced, for Naira is a restless child, but now the people had learned how to dance with it too. And so, young business folk of today, the tale of Ogbu the palm wine tapper is not just a story of old, it is a mirror for your own life. The Naira you hold in your hand will rise and fall, but wisdom will always give you footing. If you build only on cash, you may stumble, but if you build on value, on skills, on assets that multiply, even inflation will bow before you. If you, like Ogbu, learn to diversify, innovate, and create value that cannot easily be ignored, then your family too will feast in seasons when others cry of lack. And that is how a man who climbed raffia palms became a legend, not only in his household but in the history of his land.